Kal Olam Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai Bahashem Rahakodash. Double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah. Today's lesson: the same ill treatment, and they don't like it. That's right. What goes around comes around. Here I have a CRS PDF report upon the U.S. security assistance to Ukraine, which says the United States has been a leading provider of security assistance to Ukraine, particularly since Russia launched its renewed and expanded invasion of Ukraine on February 24th of 2022. From 2014, when Russia first invaded Ukraine, through December 27, 2023, the United States committed more than $47 billion in security assistance to support Ukraine's efforts to defend itself against Russia's aggression, secure its borders, and improve interoperability with NATO, according to the U.S. Department of State. Of this amount, the Biden administration has committed about $44.2 billion in security assistance since February of 2022. And according to this PBS.org article, almost half of Americans think U.S. spending too much on Ukraine aid, AP NORC poll says. Right, because for one, so-called Americans feel neglected back home. That's the reason why this article goes on to further say that I understand the citizens need help, but I feel like we're spending way too much money on Ukraine when we have our issues here on our own soil that we need to deal with, said Eric Mondello, 40, from Fountain, Colorado, pointing to needs such as health care for veterans and homelessness in communities. Mondello added, I understand the U.S. has been an ally to others, but I feel like let's take care of our people first. That's why many Americans are mad and pissed off. And according to the Japan Times, the United States is running out of money, as you can see here, and nearly out of time to send aid and weapons to Ukraine. This, together with a recent warning by Ukraine's top general, Valery Zaluzhny, that sooner or later we are going to find that we simply don't have enough people to fight, has been interpreted by some commentators as a sign of Ukraine's imminent defeat and the urgent need to negotiate with Russia. That goes to show you that all those sanctions and embargoes placed on the Russians did not hurt them, but made them stronger. They're also benefiting of the war. According to this NPR.org article, as you can see here, Russia's economy is going strong despite sanctions from the US and its allies. And we have been warning you time and time again that nothing will weaken these Russians due to the fact that they have to fulfill prophecy. We understand that your plans are to further weaken the Russians by prolonging this war, but it shall fail. This war with Ukraine is also benefiting the Russians monetarily. And according to this recent article, Russia's finance minister says the heavily sanctioned country still has enough money to pay for its war in Ukraine. Russia has been preparing for a long time. And that man is not stupid. Vladimir Putin is not a man you should underestimate. The same way that the Americans supplied weapons to Ukraine without getting their hands dirty in the war is the same way that North Korea has now supplied weapons to Russia. The same ill treatment is now being done unto them, and they do not like it. That's why I'm going to show you this small video.
Now, Russia has been ramping up its air campaign against Ukraine and launching some of its biggest strikes since the beginning of its full-scale invasion. And the White House says Moscow now has a new weapon, North Korean ballistic missiles.
Our information indicates that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea recently provided Russia with ballistic missile launchers and several ballistic missiles. On the 30th of December 2023, Russian forces launched at least one of these North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine. This missile appears to have landed in an open field in the Zaporizhia region. And on January 2nd, Russia launched multiple North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine, including as part of its overnight aerial attack. We're still assessing the impacts of these additional missiles.
So what difference is this likely to make? Let's go through this with Ben Hodges. He's a retired US Lieutenant General and a senior advisor with Human Rights First. Welcome back to DW, Ben. Talk us through what these North Korean missiles are and how they differ from what Russia was using previously.
Well, I think there are three important points about this story of the North Korean missiles. Number one, it's a reflection that Russia continues to attack civilian targets with everything they can, whether they're drones from Iran, now ballistic missiles from North Korea, plus their own Russian-made weapons. And all of these are going after civilian targets, apartment buildings, medical centers. None of these are going after military targets. The second part of this that's I think is noteworthy is the fact that Russia is having to turn to North Korea and Iran for ammunition, whether it's artillery ammunition, ballistic missiles, and that says something about the state of Russia's defense industry. These things can still kill, but the fact that Russia is having to go to North Korea and Iran for weapons, I think is an important thing to keep in mind when we assess what is the actual state of the war and Russia's ability to continue the war. The third aspect of this story, which I think is the most important, is that it's very clear that China, North Korea, and Iran are all supporting Russia. And so we, the West, need to think strategically about how these are all connected. Are we properly organized economically, diplomatically, as well as militarily to fight what I would consider the four horsemen of the apocalypse that hate and are trying to destroy everything that we say we care about?
Okay, we're going to pick up on some of those points in a moment. First of all, how are these new North Korean weapons likely to affect Ukraine's ability to defend itself?
Well, of course, given the volume of North Korean ballistic missiles, drones, Russian missiles, the Ukrainians are going through an awful lot of the air defense weapons they have received from Germany, from the United States, and from other countries. I mean, there is an attrition aspect to this as well. Patriot missiles, interceptors, and other weapons are being consumed trying to protect Ukrainian civilians. And I suspect that the addition of the North Korean weapons is intended to add to that volume of trying to reduce Ukraine's ability to defend its people and its critical infrastructure. Fortunately, so far in the early assessment, these North Korean weapons appear to be of poor quality, just like the artillery ammunition they provided. So we'll wait to see exactly what Admiral Kirby just said to do an assessment of how effective they are.
Right. And you talked about how the use of these North Korean weapons means that Russia is struggling to produce its own weapons. But I've seen reports that Ukraine's Ukraine's mobile air defenses only have ammunition to withstand a few more powerful attacks. So between these North Korean missiles and the promises of military that have been bogged down in the US and the EU, this does look like this is leaving Ukraine somewhere behind in this.
Yeah, this is a real problem. And the Russians see this. That's why they've adopted this long war approach to to use everything they can to wear down Ukrainian defenses, because they can see that Germany and the United States in particular are wavering in support. And so they're going to keep doing this approach until either they run out, which is not likely, or we rediscover our strategic backbone and provide Ukraine what is needed. Now, I think one thing that we could be doing is highlighting the origin, the point of origin of all of these different launches, and make it clear that we should at least give Ukraine the ability to strike back at the launch sites from which different weapons are coming. A lot of these things, particularly drones, come out of Crimea and Russian occupied territory. Why in the world are Germany refusing to provide Taurus and the US refusing to provide ATACMS? And then as far as the weapons that are launched from inside Russia, I mean, in the UN Charter, every nation is entitled to defend itself. And I don't understand why the United States is putting pressure on Ukraine not to strike targets inside Russia.
Good talking to you as ever. Thanks for joining us. Retired US Lieutenant General Ben Hodges.
Thank you very much.
These Russians, aka the modern day Medes, at one point or another will revert back to that old Soviet Union mentality to come against the West in an all-out nuclear war. Here I have Isaiah 13 and 17, which says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it." The Russians are those modern day Medes that shall not care for or be concerned about silver and gold. They will not delight in any form of monetary system, and neither will they care about any official bans of embargo or sanctions being placed further upon them. The Russians, along with their allies, shall be stirred up to come up against Babylon the Great, which is America, with their bows in that greater war to come. This is biblical prophecy. That's why it says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it." And it is the Lord Yahweh, Yahushua, that is controlling this war, all these wars. That official ban of embargo and sanctions placed upon the Russians during the war with Ukraine have failed. And Russia now is stronger as a result. You don't think the Russians were preparing all along? That man is not stupid. Vladimir Putin. He knows the ins and outs of his country. He's been in office for so long. You don't think he knows the ins and outs of his country? The Russians have won that war of brother versus brother in Ukraine. Plain and simple. And we knew that they were lying when it came to the status of the war in Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine's going to win. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. That's why the so-called American people have lost all confidence when it comes to the American media. They're a bunch of liars. Because they are paid to keep the truth out. And the people are fed up with that. That's why they now go to outside sources and news networks in order to get the truth. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 18. "Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb." Right, a detonation is not going to have any pity for no one. "Their eyes shall not spare children." The bows speak of their silos, and those arrows speak of those missiles that the bow shall let loose. These arrows are the weapons of the Lord's indignation, his righteous anger. Those arrows of destruction shall not even spare the fruit of the womb upon detonation, and in the aftermath there shall be nothing left. Modern day Babylon the Great shall become desolate and a complete wasteland. And after the smoke clears, that's when those wild birds shall move in and stretch themselves upon that line of confusion. The time will come when Babylon the Great shall undergo through the worst tribulation of all. It's being saved for the last. But the elect shall be saved out of it. The Lord will lay that land desolate and destroy the sinners thereof. But first cometh the CHIP of Revelation 13 and 16, then that greater war to come. The detonation shall bring about radiation and darken everything. Due to those ashes falling upon all things. The war to come is inevitable. And all these smaller countries now have nuclear capability. Let the weak say, I am strong. The scriptures have said. And they shall all come together to come against the West. With that being said, Kalalah Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai Ba Hashem Rachakwadash, and double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah.